As I talked about divorce, which I'll talk about in a minute again, but Bita, my ex-wife, a solid partner in building my life with and having wonderful children, and to this day we're finding a way to collaborate and really focusing on the positive. And as I'm about to start my new relationships, Giselle is my new partner in London. My cousin kind of coined it. When you look for a new relationship, look for one that really fits. And that's how it should feel. And Germans apparently call it RBOKMJ51009 in Farsi translation. That you should fit that tightly. In professional life, think of a supportive network that you build through your career. Some of you say, how do I start? You know, what if this company I started with doesn't go anywhere? Well, that is how you start. You have to start somewhere. And these companies are built by people. And these relationships is what matters. The really good relationships is what carries you forward. I joined a company called Go, which was the early versions of the smartphones that we use today. We were too early, ahead of our time. We failed, but we had this incredible management team, incredible employees, and some of those relationships are ones that helped me get my next job at Netscape. When I was at Netscape and I was interested and antsy to kind of move on to the next opportunity, my boss there, Mike Homer, who unfortunately passed away from a terrible brain disease, which I hope Paradis can solve one of these days, he was my mentor. And I remember Andy Bechtolsheim, which is one of the founders of Sun Microsystems and a legendary guy who sold several companies to Cisco, was one of the guys who was calling me to check on me before I get accepted to Google. Because the founders of Google, even though we were just a few employees then, were very smart to check out every person they hire. He called me and said, well, who do you work for? And I said, Mike Homer, and he hung up. And I realized what had happened is that he didn't need to talk to me anymore. He was going to count on someone he really respects and knows, which was Mike, to find out if I, passed the test. This is what I mean. These relationships across life, even in failed companies that you're a part of, is what ultimately, if they are quality people, you keep them around you and they help you build the future steps for you. And again, all of these relationships, all of the friendships, all the colleagues are what I relied on when I was building Google. I joined as the first business employee when there were about 10 engineers in the company, and that over the last 10 years hired thousands of employees. And but I started the early employees with the people that I trusted and I walked on coals with in my previous experiences. At Google, again, we have this hiring principle that A people always hire A people, and that's what we look for. People that hire people that are, in a lot of respects, better than themselves. So do not compromise. Surround yourself with quality. The third insight is really to direct your life, iterate, morph it, and improve it and lead it. It doesn't, bad things can happen, but life just doesn't happen to you, you make it. So remember it is messy, you won't get it right from the beginning, but that you get started and you iterate and you improve. Don't be afraid of failures. Just like I said, you will fail for certain, and that sometimes you may feel that you will never recover. Failed companies, uprooting yourself, like a lot of us did, and immigrated to this country with limited resources, death of a parent, a disease. These are things that happen in life, and life is messy. And you need to keep your optimism and keep moving forward. I also like to quote Winston Churchill, who talked about this this very simple phrase he said, which I found a lot of analogies in some of the challenges I face, which is, when in hell, keep walking. So, you don't stop, you don't panic, you keep walking. So, remember this again, your career is not leading you, you need to take charge and lead your life. The fourth insight is think and lead globally. Pretty much everything in our lives now is global, and that we're connected to everyone around the world. The latest economic crisis illustration of that, swine flu illustration of that. look for international experiences, look for opportunities that expand your mind and connect you to the rest of the world. I think as Iranian Americans, we actually have a built-in advantage. In our DNA, we already have this incredible heritage that has an imprint on us. And that our values and our ambitions is really touched by that. And that, again, you need to figure out how to work within this global framework and look for those experiences. I have traveled to, worked in, hired people in over 30 countries, and learned tremendously, was challenged by it, learned from the mistakes, and celebrated the victories. Lived in Japan, currently living in London for a short span, and back in California. Even if you decide that international work is not for you, you like where you are and your business may not apply internationally, I, again, recommend you traveling and educating yourself about the rest of the world and never thinking of the world as the comforts that this great country provides within a simple proximity. So how do you do all this? How do you kind of go through all these challenges in life and these advices that I've given you? At the commencement speech, again, that sounds as that I talked about this, is that I really recommend that you throw your checklist out the window of perfect things, the perfect list that you need to do. And you focus on this forward movement. You know, I was an engineer. I never practiced engineering, actually. I ended up doing marketing. And from then on, it was a life of being a serial entrepreneur. So my audacious goal was really that, was being a leader, building, having impact. I talked about marriage being forever, and ended up building a whole new life, going through a lot of pain, but learning from it and becoming a better person out of it. I'm a better father now even than I was before. And I've also, after 10 years of career at Google, decided to change my job into an advisory role because I'm finding other interests today, including spending more time with my kids. So how do you decide when it's time to iterate on life and move forward? And in depths of the difficult situations, how do you make the next move and pursue your passion? I've already learned this through my experiences, and you'll learn this through yours. And it wasn't until 3 years ago that I heard it so succinctly. And it was in the second grade classroom of my son, where the teacher was giving some sage advice. And she said, make the smallest decisions in life with your head, and the biggest and most important with your heart. So in closing, I want you to listen to your intuition, the voice within you. Use your heart to make your most important decisions. If you don't, you'll let something die inside you. And how do you know you have listened to your heart? It feels right and it fits. It won't necessarily make sense at a time to you or maybe to some other people, but it feels right. Thank you.
Omid Kordestani, ladies and gentlemen.